speakers and chaplain are all three members of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Daytona Beach Chapter 1048. I want you all to know it is the second largest chapter in the state of Florida, with 247 plus Vietnam veteran members and 47 plus associate members serving Daytona Beach and Volusia County and surrounding counties. At this time, it is my honor to introduce Rod Phillips, who is president of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 1048 in Daytona Beach. He is a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 316 in Volusia County, and he was in the 82nd Airborne Division and has been inducted, go ahead, Airborne, I hear it all the time, and has been inducted into the Florida Veterans Hall of Fame.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, and it's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. Dee, thank you for that warm welcome and introduction. I certainly appreciate that. I'd like to say welcome home to all of our veterans. We have many veterans in the room today, both Vietnam, Korea. Do we have any World War II veterans in the house tonight? I don't think I've met one. But I know we've got Vietnam and Korean War, so welcome home to all of our veterans. Diana and Terry Shack, Kathy, thank you. Diana and Terry Shack, Kathy and Bob Atkins, Diane and Terry Monet are very honored to be here with you today. We cherish the friendship and the camaraderie. Thank you so much for having us, and Dee, and everything that you do and your organization does for our veterans. We certainly appreciate that. Most of you know, and Dee hinted upon it, we are a team with the Vietnam Veterans of America, Daytona Beach Chapter 1048. And I'm very proud to report, like Dee did, and I'll repeat that, we're the second largest of 32 chapters here in the state of Florida. The largest chapter is over in the Villages, with about 500 members or more. I'm not competing with them because we'll never, I don't want to compete that way, but we are. But we're proudly representing the generation of, our generation of Vietnam veterans, as well as all veterans who have served. Our chapter was chartered in 2010, and our founder was Joseph Pizzamenti. Some of you may know him. Joe was a Daytona Beach police officer for many years with the Daytona Beach Police Department. Diana is our representative for our Associate Vietnam Veterans of America. And Diana has served several times in that capacity. Just raise your hand, Diana, so we know who you are. And those members consist of our wives, girlfriends, other veterans who may not qualify to be a Vietnam veteran to vote, and that's the only difference between the two there. And there's also a lot of supporters or members of that also. Terry Shack, her husband, is right there in the jungle fatigues. Terry is one of our directors with our chapter. Kathy Atkins, right here up front, Bob's wife, is doing a great job as our historian. And Bob Atkins, of course, is our first vice. Bob will be up here talking shortly about something very dear to his and all of our hearts. And finally, Terry Monet is our chaplain, and his wife Diane is one of our VVA members, along with Diana there. As president of our chapter, I couldn't ask for a better team. And those here today are just a handful of many members like them dedicated to portraying the most positive image of our Vietnam veterans and all of our veterans. Our parent organization is Vietnam Veterans of America. It was founded in 1978. It has over 650 chapters nationwide and currently over 85,000 members. So we're a small slice of the pie here in Florida with our 32 chapters serving our veterans. Our motto is, never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. At the age of 18, both Terry's, Bob and I made the biggest decision in our lives to join the United States military. For myself, I was living in Miami, Florida. In 1966, during my junior year at high school, I met with our local recruiter and entered the United States Army Delayed Entry Program. I'm not sure it was called that, but I did register and did get on the list there that I'm coming into the military when I graduate from high school. Now, although at that time the Vietnam War was one of our first wars that was being televised right into our homes day and night, Walter Cronkite was a familiar face on our TV screens during that time, and he was even embedded. I don't know, he was even embedded. I don't know the units, but he was in some of our units inside Vietnam, and that's Walter Cronkite. So I grew up at Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia, and visited that post numerous times. Most of my uncles, my older cousins were in the military. I was raised witnessing many examples of patriotism, Americanism, the love for our flag and our country. I graduated in June of 1967, and I enlisted in the United States Army, airborne paratrooper, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes on the 14th day of July, 1967, following the traditions of my father and my grandfathers. 11 Bravo, infantry, basic training at Fort Benning, that's like going back home. AIT, advanced infantry training at Fort Gordon, Georgia, and then back to Fort Benning for jump school. And then upon completion of that, in January 8th of 1968, I landed into the country of Vietnam. And with the 101st Airborne Division, a band of brothers. The Tet Offensive, that's the South Vietnam's New Year designation there. That was my introduction to Vietnam here in January. When I arrived in country, I was a green recruit, a newbie. I was assigned to some special training just to acclimate ourselves. The temperature is hot here in Florida, but it's extremely hot over in Vietnam, and extremely humid. We're supposed to have that training just to kind of get acclimated for about 5 to 7 days. On the third day, a lot of chatter going on with the Tet Offensive, which was a major offensive there in Vietnam in early '68. I shipped out after 3 days up to I Corps, which is the northern part of southern Vietnam, around the Phan Thiet, Phu Bai, A Shau Valley, Thua Thien. Thua Thien. On the 19th day of July 1968, I was wounded, and I was one of the lucky ones. Only receiving shrapnel wounds, short stay at a MASH type hospital for about a week, and then right back out into the fight. I spent most of my tour in the jungle, in I Corps, in the A Shau Valley. Returning just for a few times, our top sergeant would bring us in for 1 day, and he would give us a nice steak or some type of meat. It could be chicken, it could be water buffalo. That's pretty predominant in Vietnam. And give us a good meal and a cot to sleep in overnight. And then the next day early, we were back out on choppers, generally transported by the first cab. We have our first cab here represented today, back out into the field. I departed Vietnam in January of 1969. I was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division. I went through some more specialized training there. I was expecting a second tour of Vietnam. I did volunteer, so I wanted to stay very proficient. I was a buck sergeant at that time, and they were pretty short of leadership over there in the country, so I expected orders any day. They never came, but I did serve with the Honor Guard of the 82nd Airborne Division, traveling around our country, performing full military funeral services for our veterans, for our fallen veterans, most of whom were, of course, my brothers from Vietnam. Then I was also assigned to the Provost Marshal's office, flying around our United States there, picking up soldiers who may have just stepped over the line and gotten into a little bit of trouble with our local and state authorities while on leave, and then I would escort them back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to face their situation there. I departed the Army in 1970, And I continued to serve in the Army Reserves in Miami, Florida, on the campus of the University of Miami. I was also jumping out of airplanes in Homestead Air Force Base. We met monthly, of course, in the reserves, and Major Doug King was my commanding officer, and he had a connection there with Homestead Air Force Base. So we had a C-130 waiting for us when we reported to duty as much as we could. I began my law enforcement career serving in the state of Florida. I served for about 38 years, starting out in Miami, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and with the state of Florida. And I just wanted to also go a little over our chapter here in Daytona Beach, if I may. We have a lot of public outreach opportunities that we do. In my opinion, it keeps our chapter members alert, in front of the community, doing great things for our veterans. We do the, community outreach programs, homeless veteran stand-downs. We've done 5 or 6 of those over the years. Agent Orange and PTSD awareness, POW MIA Recognition Day every September. Women veterans, anytime I do find a female or a woman veteran that's in the United States Army, especially a Vietnam veteran, they're very hard to find. We do have a few, but when I find them, they were usually our nurses that were stationed in country. We have an educational team. Bob coordinates that with about 13 or 14 other veterans. We go to the different high schools. Veterans Court, I'll elaborate a little bit more on Veterans Court here in Volusia County with currently Judge Fagenbaum. It started with Judge Beck. The Missing in America Project, Bob's going to talk a little bit about that. ROTC, JROTC programs, both in Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and most of our high schools. I think we have 10 high schools, and we're in about 7 or 8 of those. My goal is to get into them all. Scholarships, we offer scholarships, 4 of them in our chapter. Paper Safe, that's just basically a document where you can keep all of your important papers. The veterans here know that a DD-214 is a very important document to prove that you were in the military, and it's a very important document to where when the day does occur, that's turned into a national cemetery or to a funeral director, and there are benefits that go along with that. Reach Across America, indeed, you guys are getting involved in that. We've certainly been involved in that. And we have a brother and sisterhood with all veterans. All veterans have that. And we welcome, our doors are open to any and all veterans. Now, we are Vietnam veterans, of course, but our doors are open. Your younger generation is just not the joiners. They're coming back. They're looking for employment. We network with Career Source here locally. That's the employment office for the state of Florida. They're doing their resumes. They're getting married. They're having children and jobs. They just, but our doors are always open to them. Now, I mentioned Veterans Court here in Volusia County. Yesterday, it was our 6-year anniversary with Veterans Court, which was founded in 2013. It was originally named the Volusia County Veterans Court. Our good friend and past president of our Vietnam Veterans Chapter, J.J. Martin, and I were on the steering committee, along with Judge David Beck. Some of you may know and remember Judge Beck. He was our first Veterans Court judge. Our very own county councilwoman, Heather Post, who is here today. She is former law enforcement. She has participated in our Veterans Court. And I want to thank you for that, Heather, and also congratulations on your new appointment as the chair of the National Association of Counties Veterans and Military Services Committee. I look forward to working with you in the future on that. Before Veterans Court, we had those stand-downs that I mentioned. Judge Beck was there participating with us, and he would hold Veterans Court right there at 250 North Beach Street in that small traffic courthouse, but it was a full-fledged courtroom. And he would clear a lot of the misdemeanor cases that some of those veterans that attended our stand-down. He basically said, sentence time served, they've been on the books for years, and it helped the veteran because he's looking around his shoulder all the time when he sees a marked police unit come by. Are they going to pick me up today? He's homeless anyway. He doesn't need any more stress. Both Judge J.J. Martin and Judge Beck have passed away. We honor J.J. with a personalized flag case placed inside the courtroom by Judge Feigenbaum before each and all veteran court sessions. On May 26, 2017, we honored Judge Beck by renaming the court, which is now known as the Judge David B. Beck Veterans Court. Judge Feigenbaum, as I said, is currently our presiding judge today, continuing the legacy of Judge Beck and our fellow veterans here for Veterans Court. So we're very honored to have a Veterans Court. And we have two sessions, one that meets on the west side of the county for convenience of those veterans that live over there, and the other one right here in Daytona Beach. In closing, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended in 1918. Due to the conclusion of the war to end all wars, November 11th became a universally recognized day of celebration. The day was originally declared as Armistice Day, 8 years after World War I, and honored only veterans in that war. Then in 1954, after World War II and the Korean War, it was renamed Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served America in war and defended democracy. So this coming Monday, in a couple of days, we honor all of our veterans who unselfishly placed their lives on the line for our freedom. Those men and women, like some of us in this room today, ordinary people, until we heard the call of duty and answered it. We left our families, we left our homes, our lives as we knew them, and not for recognition or fame, or even the honor bestowed upon us this Veterans Day. We fought to protect our country, to maintain the way of our life. As we honor our veterans and remember their good deeds, let us salute those who are in harm's way, currently fighting for our freedom today. Thank you, Dee, for having me today, and God bless America.